everyone. I'm Carrie Ellen, the host of That's For Sure podcast, and I have a very special episode today. Really, it's just an episode about Thanksgiving, a topic that's super close to me. I'm very passionate about, and not because I love turkey or, even really traditional Thanksgiving foods all that much. I really don't, but I'm more of a baked salmon, roasted veggie salad type Thanksgiving eater. But this idea of Thanksgiving and of just living a life of gratitude is so important to me because it has changed my life and how I live. And so I wanted to share some thoughts with you today on this episode. So it's just me today, no guests. It'll be Carrie and Carrie. And I'm just going to have a conversation with you and just share some things that I have learned about this act of Thanksgiving and of just living a life with an attitude of gratitude. So to start us off, first, I have to thank you, the listener, so very much for your support in just the beginnings of this podcast of That's For Sure. It just launched a couple months ago, and I have had so much fun, and I hope you've enjoyed listening in on the conversations that I've had with some incredible folks so far. And, we're just getting started. So I am so excited about what's coming to close this year out and then also just to start the new year in 2024, which how wild is that? How can it be 2024? I feel like I'm still 23, right? I should still be 23, but actually that was quite a while ago now. So if this is 2024, but anyway, I am so grateful for the ways you've supported, and I would appreciate if you just continue that support as we release new episodes. If you want to share with a friend or a family member who you think the show would really encourage, that would just be awesome. So here from me, I am super grateful for your support up to this point, and I'm excited about what's ahead. So I wanted to share just a few things I've learned over the years since I'm not 23. Quite a bit older than that. I've learned some things in life, and I've learned some things specifically about Thanksgiving and living a life of gratitude that I really wanted to share with you. And the reason I want to share is because I hope that maybe some of the things that I've learned could be helpful to you in your life. And maybe you'll experience some of the goodness and the change that I have, that my heart has experienced through practicing gratitude and for adopting this idea of an attitude of gratitude. Something I say often to my boys, and, Zet, are you having an attitude of gratitude? But every time I say it, it's such a reminder to me too. Like, Carrie, are you showing an attitude of gratitude in this situation? And just that little simple question can really make a difference in how I approach things or what I think about something or how I respond to something. So it's been helpful to me. Actually, my full-time job, I always sign my work emails with grateful, Carrie. And I'll never forget the day my boss said she's just waiting for me to, have had it with something or a situation or be frustrated. And one day no longer sign my emails with grateful. And as funny as that is, it's just not true. I find that this life of gratitude and living a grateful kind of life really has nothing to do with circumstance. It has nothing to do with those frustrating moments in life, those annoying, emails or coworkers or whatever it might be. But really, it's so far beyond circumstance. So that's what I want to talk about today. Just want to share just 5 things that I have learned. And it's not exhaustive by any means, and I'm still learning. But just 5 things that I've learned about gratitude that I hope will be a help to you. So the first one is this idea that joy and contentment can be lived despite our circumstances. So just shared a little bit about that, but really that all that we have are gifts from God. And so that joy and contentment that we receive from Him really have very little to do. They have nothing to do with our circumstances. Only He gives us this joy and contentment, and it all comes from Him. I want to read a verse here in book of Colossians, which is one of my favorite books. I can never spell it, but it is one of my favorite books in the Bible just because of its rich content. It's so simple and so George, but it's just packed with such good truth. So in Colossians 1, verses 15 to 17, it says this: He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things were created by him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Of course, he in this passage is referring to Jesus, the one who was before, who is, and who will always be. And it is in him that all things hold together. So because everything begins and ends with him, he is our true source of all things in between. And because of that, it has very little joy and contentment and this idea of gratitude. They have very little to do with what we have or what we don't have or what our circumstances are, but they have everything to do with who he is and with who we know. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that giving thanks is actually worship. I know we often think of it as we think of worship as singing or, songs on Sunday morning and that kind of thing. And that is a form of worship, but worship is so much bigger than that. And it's this idea of being grateful is an act of worship. It's an act of worship, something we can do every day of our lives. And so giving thanks to God takes the focus off of me and puts it onto thee. See what I did there? So giving thanks takes the focus off of me and my circumstances and where I am and what I have, and it rightly reorients itself back to God, the giver of all things. And so in giving thanks, I am worshiping and acknowledging that Jesus is the giver of all things. So in Deuteronomy, there's a passage. I like saying Deuteronomy because the word dude is in it. And that's always fun being a boy mom. But in Deuteronomy 8:17-20, it says this. Now you may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives the ability to produce wealth and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your forefathers as it is today. So it is God who gives us everything, even the abilities that we have to work the jobs that we do, the abilities that we have to be innovative or creative or, build and develop and create things. All of those things are him and his gift to us of giving us these abilities so that we can do the work that we do. So even we can't even take credit for the things that we do because it is only by his enabling us to have that ability that we can. And so when we see that and we orient him and who he is as the giver of these things, can we then offer him thanks as an act of worship? And it's life-changing to be able to do that, to recognize that, gosh, even the air in my lungs is a gift from God. And so to begin the day with, wow, taking a deep breath and just acknowledging the fact that God has given us that breath in our lungs and begin there can make a huge impact in our day. The third thing is that Thanksgiving reminds us that God is God and we are not. Thank goodness. Thank him that he is God and we are not. Nobody wants me as a God. Nobody wants you as a God, but having God as God is huge. And it's the way things should be. It's the way things are. It's easy to believe this lie that we are responsible for our own success in life, or we are responsible for how our life is going to turn out. And while there's a hint of truth to that, sure, there are consequences to choices, and sure, it's good to work hard with your hands. The truth is that mindset is going to weigh us down with this responsibility that's just really not ours to carry. Life is going to go the way that God ordains it to go. And we look to him as the sustainer of our needs, not to our own selves. That would be devastating to look to ourselves as the one who can control our situation, control someone else's situation. That's making ourselves a God, and it's only going to destroy us and potentially the people around us. But when we can give thanks to God, we're reminded that he's in control. He's the one who determines our success. Success is actually, from a biblical standpoint, it's actually walking with him. It's not doing things on our own. It's actually partnering with him. It's being with him, being in his word, and the outflow of these things of knowing him, knowing his word, that's success. And so we get to take that pressure off of ourselves, in knowing that God is the one in control. And so we can thank him that he is in control and we are not. Psalm 24, 1-6. I'm going to read that one next. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. For he founded it upon the seas and established it upon the waters. Who may ascend the hill of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not lift up his soul to an idol or swear by what is false. He will receive the blessing from the Lord and vindication from God his Savior. Such is the generation of those who seek him, who seek his face, O God of Jacob. Let's be people who look to him, far beyond we look to ourselves, because he's the one who created all and he knows all. And let us be a people who give thanks to him rightly. The fourth thing that I have learned about gratitude is that it leads to generosity. And this is super fun. Generosity living is an outflow of gratitude. It's just a natural outpouring of a life of gratitude. We recognize that God is the source of all goodness. And by recognizing that, we just hold the things that we do have a little bit looser, right? Have you ever received a gift and you were so blessed by that gift or just so grateful for that gift that in return, you wanted to either give in a similar fashion to somebody else, just extravagantly or above and beyond, or you wanted to share the gift that you've been given with those around you. That's what this idea of gratitude does. It helps us to become more generous with the gifts that we have, the things that we have. Gratitude leads to generosity. We get a picture of this in the first church, the first generation of Christians, and we read about it in Acts 4, where Jesus has ascended, and now the first church is gathering. And this is the picture that we're given in Acts 4, 32-35. All the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of his possessions was his own, but they shared everything they had. And with great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and much grace was upon them. There were no needy persons among them. From time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them. They brought the money from the sales, and they put it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to anyone as they had need. What a beautiful picture of this idea that living a life of gratitude leads to generosity. And I know you've experienced this in your life, and I'm sure that you've also participated in this life because it's just the way God designed us. It's a natural overflow of a life of gratitude. And the fifth and final thing, and again, it's not exhaustive, but fifth and final thing I'll share today about giving thanks is that it's similar idea, is that it blesses others. God designed us to bless those around us. He designed us to be those who build up others, to encourage others, to bless those around us. So many people in my life are a blessing. You're a blessing in my life. When you listen and encourage and cheer me on, it blesses me. And as a result, I now have a desire to bless others. So I'm fueled to continue the blessing. Hashtag bless. That's a lot of blessing, but it's the way we are wired. 2 Corinthians 9, this will be the last passage that I read to you today. And I encourage you to go back and listen to some of these or read these again on your own. But 2 Corinthians 9, 11-13 says, "You will be made rich in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God." This service that you perform is not only supplying the needs of God's people, but it's also overflowing in many expressions of thanks to God. Because of the service by which you have proved yourselves, men will praise God for the obedience that accompanies your confession of the gospel of Christ, and for your generosity in sharing with them and with everyone else. It's this idea that we are generous, that blesses those around us. And who doesn't want to be a blessing to somebody? I mean, the opposite's terrible. So we might as well be a blessing, right? To those around us. So we give thanks because it unlocks in us this desire to bless those around us. So I've written just a simple guide that unpacks these concepts just a little bit further. It's available on my website, which is carrieellen.live, CarrieEllen.live. And we'll link to it in the show notes so that you can access that. It is a free download for you. I'm passionate about this idea of Thanksgiving because it changes lives. I once lived a life of the opposite of gratitude, and it was devastating on me, and it was hurtful to people around me. But I just did not understand what it meant to be grateful. I was doing things on my own. I believed that I was the one who could make or break my life, that the responsibility to be successful, to be noticed, to be praised was all on me. And I sought after those things, and it was devastating. And so I know what it is to live outside of this life of gratitude. And now I know what it is to live the life of gratitude. And it's so much better. It's so much more freeing. It's so more in line with God's design for us, which only brings about blessing and joy and contentment and flourishing, because that's who God wired us to be. So I have on the website the free download, like I said. And then lastly, just by way of Thanksgiving, whether you eat turkey or salmon is your preference. But I did want to also say in this episode, gosh, thank you so much for the support of many of you with my book, That's For Sure. I'm so grateful for you, and for those of you that picked up a copy, have read it, have given a review on Amazon. If you haven't done that yet, it's super helpful just in terms of those looking for a similar book in the genre. The more reviews it has, the more likely the book will be to be up there on the first page of scrolling, so someone else can find it, and hopefully it will be an encouragement to them as well. It's also a great Christmas gift. It's like the perfect size to fit into a stocking. If you'd like to share with friends and family for the upcoming holidays. But please hear me say, I am so grateful for you. I truly believe that God desires this life of gratitude for us because He knows what's best for our hearts. He knows what's best for our souls, and His desire of us is that we know Him. We know that He's good. We know that He cares so deeply for us. We know that He's with us in all circumstances, and that we just trust Him and we follow His lead, knowing that His way is best. His way is better. He is always better than anything else before us. And so I pray that you know that to be true in your life. I hope that the resource, the Thanksgiving guide, is a help to you. Feel free to jump over to the website, download it, and give me your feedback. I'd love to hear what some of the things are that that God has spoken to you or shared with you, or some of the things that you're learning about gratitude. I have a ton to learn myself, so I would love to learn from you. So thank you so much, you guys. I'm super grateful for you, whether it's turkey or salmon, whatever you're having for your Thanksgiving meal. I just hope and pray that it is a wonderful day of giving thanks, of recognizing we have a really good and loving God, and He is with us. And that is something to be grateful for. I'm grateful for you, and I'm excited for what's to come. Check back in December. I have a very special guest, and I know I'm biased, but a very special guest coming on the show in the month of December, and I know you're going to love it. So until then, I'll see you next time, and thank you guys so much. Super, super grateful, Carrie.